Hey there, listener. Welcome to the Deep Share Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Rouse, and for the last couple of decades, I've slowly been opening my eyes to a very different world than the one I grew up hearing about. And the more conversations I have with interesting people, the more mystifying this world becomes. So without further ado, let's get deep.
We've got science to celebrate! Demons bliss out! After what, baby? Come on!
There is rebellion in the wind. It will crush.
Everything I've said is true. It's real.
Dinosaur fossils? God put those here to test our faith.
A damn lie. I saw them with my own eye.
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
We did illusions, man! None of it is true!
I'm not insane.
This is mass madness, you maniacs! In God's name, you people are the real thing! We are the illusion!
Welcome back to the Deep Share Podcast. I am here tonight with Scott Armstrong, formerly of Truthzilla, now with the Rebunked podcast. How's it going, Scott?
Great, man. Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it. You know, like we were talking before, we've ran in the same circles, been on the Union of the Unwanted together, but we haven't actually collaborated on an episode before. So I really appreciate you having me on, man. It's great.
Yeah, it was due time, brother. It was due time, man. So you got this new show, Rebunked. Man, it's pretty great. From what I've seen so far, you had a great interview recently with Richard Gage about 9/11. It's awesome, man. So tell us a little bit about this new show and what you're doing with it. What's your mission here?
Yeah. So man, I appreciate it. So as your listeners may have heard, I was with the show Truthzilla. That's kind of like what launched me into this whole realm to begin with. Before that, dude, I didn't know how to edit a video or do anything. Just born out of this whole chaos of the last 2 years, it was Ed, Megan, and I, we kind of decided to just get on the microphone and start talking about all this crazy stuff that we all talk about now. And, I feel like so much, like all of us kind of just were born out of that. You know what I mean? It's just, so it's really cool. Truthzilla was just like quite an experience for me, man. Like I just, found things within myself I didn't even know were there. And then just, the community that we built and just like all this stuff, man, it was so powerful. And, but, unfortunately back in January, like the whole project kind of came to a halt, kind of decided to kind of go all our separate ways sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like the way I've been characterizing it, it's just like the band broke up, you know what I mean? Like it happens and like, it's sad. And, but, I couldn't just stop and not keep going, you know what I mean? And so I pivoted over to the new project and, that was that, honestly, I ended up leaving the show and that was that. So I was just like, yeah. And, anyway, so, it was rough for a minute there. Like I just didn't know like what life would be like without podcasting, without that show. I'd had so much of my identity like attached to that. And so it was really tough for a little bit, but because of that, I was just like, no, I can't just stop. I can't just keep my mouth shut. I can't just not do anything. And so that's the new show. And so Rebunked is the new show. The idea being that, as we're witnessing all these things around us that we're debunked, right? Things that they keep saying, oh, that's debunked. Oh, that's debunked. Well, now it's all coming true. And it's all like, New York Times, they're reporting it. So, what do we call that? I say we call it rebunked. So we're just rebunking all the stuff that they debunked. And there we are. So there you go.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, man. I mean, it's all just bouncing back into it's just coming right back around. And this time it's telling the truth. But I don't know, it's just so bizarre how it's all being handled because like it's coming back at everyone and we're seeing it, of course. But let me know your perspective on this, because what I'm seeing is unfortunately a lot of the same, which is like they have programmed everything so well that by the time this does bounce back, people are still sleeping to it. But it's just I do see people here and there kind of waking up to it. But what's your perspective on it from where you are?
Totally. I feel like people are waking up for one. I think something shifted to where like it's almost like in their little circles, and I don't know what their memes look like. I don't know what their little chat groups look like, you know what I mean? But it almost feels like in a way, like they almost were given permission to start like maybe coming back around just a little bit. I don't know. I've had people in my life who like, just wrote me off, like come back around and be like, hey man, like, hey, I'm sorry. I let politics come between us. You know what I mean? And this and that. So it's like, but it all happened around the same time, like within the same week. It was weird. So I was like, okay, so that means maybe something in the zeitgeist, like gave them permission to kind of come back to this or something. I don't know. I have no explanation for that. So
I like that.
you know, something weird shifted, maybe just a teeny tiny little bit. Maybe it was unintentional. I don't know. But I did have that personal experience, which led me to believe like maybe they're something, and it's probably inadvertent, because to me, that's their worst fear still is for people to come back together. You know, they still need to have us divided on a left and a right paradigm. They still need to fight with each other, and they still need the divide. So I have no explanation for it, but I witnessed it. So it's perplexing.
Yeah,
but
man, for sure.
The other thing that's really creepy, and like, and we just know this to be the case, like, you know, what I've seen too is like, you know, as this stuff is getting rebunked or coming back, you know, coming into the you know, being reported as true now, they're portraying it in such a way that's just like so gaslighting, and they're saying like, well, yeah, I mean, it's always true. Like my favorite example is like with like that Lena Wynn lady, like going on the news, and this is a couple months ago, but like just coming back on the news and talking about masking, being on, like, just saying like, well, you know, just one-way masking, it's fine. You know, as long as you have your mask on, it's fine. And saying it in such a way that it's like, well, of course it's fine. Like, we're like, lady, we've been telling you this for 2 years now. And then, you know, she's like the week before saying like, you know, we should be like putting boxcars for that type of thing, you know, effectively.
Dude, yeah, she pulled a total 180 and acted like, and no one seemed to care. And I'm just like, what? Well, we did. We were all like, what the, what is this? This is like some like switch programming or something, man.
Yeah. It's just the gaslighting effect where they're just going to roll it back, but they're going to act like, but they're going to somehow pivot it or spin it in such a way that they're still the good guys. You know what I mean? They're still going to be on the right side of it, and we're still going to be the bad guys somehow. Like, and so my big prediction somehow, and I don't know if this is a prediction, but I think the ultimate is going to be somehow they're going to get all of these people like on Trump's side somehow. That would be the ultimate, dude.
Interesting. Yeah, dude.
Pull that off.
That kind of reminds me of something I've been thinking lately, which is like this corralling that is going on around Elon Musk. I don't know what your take on it at all is, but it seems to me like they're positioning him to be some kind of false messiah, in my opinion.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like a Trojan horse for sure. That sort of thing. Where, I mean, he's like a government contractor. He's working on, you know, AI. He's working on brain implantables. But you know, he's have you seen his wife or girlfriend or whatever?
Yeah, I don't even know what her name is. It's like a verb or something.
Grimes. That's
Grimes.
Yeah. Grimes. It's not familiar. Like, go look at her Instagram page. It's like weird. She like intentionally makes herself look like a 12-year-old girl all the time, which is just so creepy. That's one level of creepiness. But then the other level of creepiness is the fact that like she's already embodying, you know, the whole transhuman, like futuristic thing. That's creepy as well.
Yeah.
But then I heard that now she's pregnant or had a kid recently, or she's pregnant with, have you ever heard this?
No.
Okay, you ready for this? I don't know if you're ready for this.
I'm excited.
Is allegedly pregnant with, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to look it up. Okay, hold on. What is the name?
The suspense builds. This is gonna be worse than I am imagining.
Yes, it didn't say like it's like Matrix breaking stuff right here. What is the tip of my tongue? Okay, hold on. I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, I think this is good.
Chelsea.
We're doing the work.
Who's the one that with the collateral damage, the collateral murder WikiLeaks thing?
Oh, Chelsea Manning.
Chelsea Manning, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so that is like Grimes's new baby daddy is Chelsea Manning, dude. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, maybe I might have heard that. I might have, but see, that's oh man, this shit just kind of floats in and out now. It's information overload these days. But that's.
Let me just fact check myself here.
Really fucked up. I mean, that's all controlled opposition.
Yeah. Wow. So
that's so fucked, dude. And also on top of that, do you remember her sweet poetry about like AI and shit like that she used to do, or songs or something like that?
Yeah.
Like, it feels like some of it feels so intentional and so fake. What is your take on the fake thing? Because I'm sure to some degree you can totally accept that some of this is like total theater and shit. You know what I mean? Like, what's your take on that? Like, how fake is it?
Oh God. I mean, just like with like her, or just in general?
Like, she seems like like an actor almost. It seems like acting. It seems like over the top bullshit. Like, so first of all, you got this man positioned as Tony fucking Stark, right?
Sure.
So he's Iron Man and he's doing all these things. And then he's got this girlfriend that's the antithesis of humanity. Basically, it just seems like it's a setup. I don't know. Maybe I'm just paranoid at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so weird because, I mean, it all has to be fake. I mean, it's all based on lies and deception. Like all of every one of their positions and stances and what they're trying to get us to believe is based on deception and going against our absolute basic humanity, and not only that, but like rejecting our humanity and trying to consider our humanity to be flawed and defective and not good enough, and that therefore they can improve upon it, so it's all false deceptions, and it's all, so much of this is to just like create cognitive dissonance. So when we look at like someone like Elon, right, or what they're trying to portray him as, like creating this like straw man of like, yeah, he's super based and he's super like he's not like, is he a conspiracy theorist? Like he's like, maybe he makes little tweets about like maybe he's like a flat earther. Like everyone's like now blowing, oh God, is he a flat earther? I don't know. I'm just using that as an example.
He says the world needs more babies. Like that's a huge slap in the face to the typical narrative.
Yeah,
man.
But what I, and so what they're trying to do is they're trying to like create this cognitive dissonance where we're like, okay, yeah, well, he's awesome. And we're all on board with him as a person. And he's like this cool guy, right? And he cares about us and he's going to lead us into salvation. While on the other hand, he's doing all the stuff that we're rallying against. And then that gal, dude, it's like creating this, it's not computing, necessarily. So I think confronted with all that evidence, he might come across as being a cool dude, like in his tweets and stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm not buying it, man. He's not, it's all bad, man.
Yeah, man.
No one's coming to save us. No one's coming.
Exactly. That is, of course, the message. I mean, it's ourselves. We got to go within and kind of reassess ourselves. And then, the whole change the world thing, right? One person at a time.
Totally.
But just by living through it, and gaining this knowledge. And instead of, like I used to just constantly just yell at the people in my life, now I have the podcast and I have a community. Of course, we have this beautiful fucking community that we can all, it's a think tank, right? It's a big, loving, awesome think tank. And, now we can kind of try to live the better ideas that we've all gathered to talk about. And I know you're big into that too. And like, I'm trying to grow my own food and, it's just, the pressure's on with the food shortages, like possibly being real, maybe a psyop, who fucking knows? But I know that prices are getting way jacked up right now for everything. And we know we don't even want what's being sold to us anyway from the stores. So I was curious what your position there is. Like, are you growing your own food? Do you want to do that kind of thing? I know you're kind of like gearing up for like a move, if I'm correct. So
Yeah. So, man, I think that is the solution. The literal solution is like trying to eliminate our dependence on systems, institutions, supply lines as much as possible. And, I feel like I talk about it a lot, but I'm trying to move more closer to being in action around that stuff. But I still just have so far to go. Like I did,
Me too.
I invested a lot of energy and work in this like local kind of co-op, I guess you could call it. It was basically like a food. Is called a gleaning service. Basically, it was like a local food preservation organization where they like take food from food banks and they like take all these bags of rice and pour them into like food safe buckets with Mylar bags and like create storable food and then distribute it out to the community basically. And you pay like a monthly membership fee to get involved with that. And then you volunteer, like, they ask like 10 hours a month or something like that. So you volunteer, you pay a fee, you go help do all the preserving, like canning. So you're learning on at the same time, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Learn about canning and just like, the dry good preservation, but then you get to keep a whole bunch of food too. So I did that, for a while, and I stocked up enough to like, what I feel to be like a good year's supply of food if I had to live on it,
That's awesome.
But the growing food part, I haven't, I was living on this like kind of homestead type deal outside the city, but I wasn't as hands-on involved with the growing food process as I would have liked to have been. I just so busy, man. It's something that I really want to get more involved in. so that's like my big vulnerability. I feel like the sense of urgency to really get more involved, but kind of the biggest thing that I've been personally involved with is just the community building piece, and that was all like born out of the Freedom Cell movement.
Yeah,
are you familiar with that at all?
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
Maybe some of your listeners too, like it'd be worth mentioning.
Yeah, I bet.
Because it was started by John Bush and Derek Bros, and it's freedomcells.org. And basically the idea is you just go and you look for one in your community. And if there isn't one, like I just tell people to start one. And that's what we ended up doing. And basically what it is just bringing people together who kind of see that maybe there's something different or something going on. And this is like old ideas. Like it goes back to just the idea of agorism. Agorism being just like building alternative economies, counter economics, all that stuff. And there's a great book. There's a great book called The New Libertarian Manifesto by a guy named Samuel E. Konkin III. It's a fantastic book that kind of describes what agorism is all about. And I kind of learned about that from Derek Bros's book called The Conscious Resistance Trilogy, which is another fantastic book. I highly, highly recommend it. And it describes the idea of, which to me seems to be really the only solution. The only solution, like there's no way that we're going to be able to like fight off the government. There's no way we're going to be able to like, protest our way out of this or change anything in a court of law. Like the laws and the courts are designed to, maintain the power of these institutions that are just, and so to me, it's all about just pulling back and building our own institutions off to the side. I feel like in our community, there's a lot of people that are doing that, with places like Rockfin or just like whatever that are building alternative platforms.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Rockfin, Odyssey.
Yeah. Float,
of course.
Yep. So, I feel like that is the solution. And so anyway, what we did is we started our own little freedom cell here. So I'm in Eugene, Oregon, right in the belly of the beast. It's about 2 hours south of Portland. Portland had a freedom cell going, and we went and visited them and were really inspired by what they were doing. And so we came and started our own here. And, I met, all like some of the most amazing people I've ever met and made some really good connections. But, I don't know.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Like it's rough though. I feel Oregon is just, doesn't really, it's just been so dark out here that I'm just like, even despite all the effort putting into that and organizing these events and meetups and stuff like that. And we even put on like a little freedom festival, like right in the middle of
I remember
summer.
that.
Yeah.
I was applauding you for that. That was awesome, dude.
Yeah. I mean, it was fantastic, but it's been tough, like to get any momentum, to get any sort of action outside of that. You know what I mean? It's not anybody's fault. You know what I mean? Like I'm sometimes I beat myself up, like saying like, oh, I suck at like organizing events or whatever, but it's just like,
nah,
I feel like a lot of it is like, I don't know.
It's where you are, man. It's Oregon. Yeah. I feel very similar here in Massachusetts, but I know our homie Mark Steves would probably say nonsense to that because, he's got that positive attitude. He lives right near me down in Connecticut, and New England's very liberal. Yeah. But I think it's less liberal underneath than it appears. And like, man, I used to live in Oregon. So, shout out to Eugene. Sure. I have friends in Eugene who I haven't spoken to in so long that I'm going to tell them about this episode. Be like, hey, this is a friend of mine all the way out on the West Coast that also has a podcast. Check this episode out. And I don't know how they're going to receive the information I'm even giving. It's been that long, because there was like a dividing line at some point where a lot of friends suddenly got back together after not speaking and were like, whoa, wait a minute. We don't even feel the same about this shit anymore. So I don't even know. But Oregon, I bet from what I remember of it, there was a lot of, this is my land. This is my place. This is my sovereignty. These are my guns. Like there was a lot of that out there at least. So hopefully that hasn't completely careened off the cliff.
No, I mean, it's funny because literally just like Portland and Eugene, maybe Bend too a little bit. I don't know, but
that's where I was. Yeah.
It's like, it's very blue. Like it's just so depressing. It's so demoralizing. Like just sometimes it is, if you really let it affect you, like it could be really awful. And like in the midst of all of it, it was rough out here, dude. But you take like, go outside the city limits, like at 5 miles in any direction, and it's all like it's yeah, very, very red and everything, man. It's like, so it's really sad how like the state's been co-opted, and I feel like it's not, in a lot of ways, like not completely organic. We've seen like, all the election bullshit, and it's like, it really makes you question, like, God, I wonder really how much of this is actually like real. Like, I don't even know, man. Like, it's just insane.
Predetermined.
Yeah. So anyway, so my whole thing is like, I've been wanting to get out of here for a minute. I've been wanting to, and I grew up here. I've lived here my whole life. I was born here, raised here. I love Oregon. I just don't know if I like what Oregon's become. And I've spent a little bit of time outside of these kind of blue areas, like over the, like, what was it, last summer? I spent a good amount of time down in Roseburg, which is a pretty red county. And, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm ready to try something new. So
might as well, right?
Yeah. Some synchronicities happened, and I made some connections out in Tennessee, and it looks like that's where I'm going to be heading here. So yeah, man, pretty stoked.
That's a good spot to be, I think, man. That sounds like a very nice spot to be. Yeah. Interestingly enough, my wife and I have been thinking New Hampshire, heading north for a long time. But the more we get into wanting to grow our own food, man, it's like we want to grow more that this climate won't support. And we're like, we got to go south. So it's like everything's kind of converging down like a little bit further south for us. And a lot of people are heading that way, it seems. So who knows, man, what the future might bring for this community in terms of like really getting together on massive scales. Who knows? That's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I've been looking forward to all winter long. And now that the good weather is starting to roll through for us over here, I'm hoping we can get some like good meetups going and shit like that, Like I saw you were at the Reawaken America tour.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how that was, man?
Yeah.
Because I saw some of your photos and videos. I'm like, man, he's right in the heart of it. This is great.
Yeah, it was really cool, man. I was really honored to be there. Like so I've done shows with Mel K before, and she emailed us a while back and was like, hey, I'm going to be in Oregon during this time. Love to see you guys. So I followed up with her. I'm like, hey, so you still coming? She's like, yeah. So she actually got me hooked up with like a VIP pass and a media pass. And like, I was able to like kind of go just about anywhere around there, which is really cool. Nice. And so big shout out to Mel K, the Mel K show. I kind of knew what I was getting into there. Like, it was funny because like I knew it was mostly going to be like, MAGA, Make America Great Again crowd and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't really resonate with that per se. Like, I'd obviously rather probably be in that type of crowd than like a freaking Antifa rally or something. But,
right. Yeah.
So I feel obviously more comfortable in a place like that. But, I definitely I didn't resonate with half the people there, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? But at the same time, because, it's still that two-party paradigm, man. It doesn't matter if it's coming from the left or the right, equally, I to what extent they even realize that they're part of that, or if they are like literally there as people, the controlled people, keeping people in the left-right paradigm. Like, it's just like, I just don't like resonate with a lot of that stuff. Like, it was like, there was some really cringy stuff there. I'm just like, oh God,
yeah, it's hard, man. It's like I've had this conversation recently with multiple people about how it's like there's always degrees of how awake you are or aware. This great awakening we're all kind of a part of. It's like, some people are just starting to smell the coffee, though. And nothing wrong with that, though. We can't condemn it, but we, remain steadfast. And
well, I'll get to more of that, but it's like, to me, it's like what I've been seeing, and it kind of just was really pointed out to me recently, was just the idea of like the false idol and how useful of a tool that is for deception and pushing bad narratives. You know what I mean? Like, it's the idea of like Trump, right? So if you have this person that they put up as like a savior type figure, you know what I mean? This is what, reminds me of the Elon Musk thing, right?
Yeah.
And so something to be very, very cautious of. So however you perceive Elon Musk, this is something that I've seen now. And I see this as a tool that they use. They prop somebody up as like this like savior, or just like this idol. You see it with like the Disney people, the Disney kids. Like, what a great way to groom a generation of kids is by like get them attached to this this figure as like a kid, like a Britney Spears or a Miley Cyrus, and then as that kid grows up, and they can like literally orchestrate that kid into like more degenerative behavior, and then have this whole generation of people mimic that. It's a great way to, so you get somebody bought into who this person is as a figure, and then you just destroy that figure, and people go along with it. Same thing with Trump. Like, everybody fully bought in with Trump, and then all of a sudden he becomes the biggest vaccine salesman out there, right?
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh
so
yeah.
you
And
blew it.
it's great too, because it's like psyops within psyops, right? Because you're blaming Biden for like doing it the wrong way, but you're just, you're still doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
typical. So
Yeah.
typical.
And it's my favorite is actually like Adam on Deborah Gets Red Pilled.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Adam.
Yeah, shout out to Adam, dude. He has like and I've used this in my life too. It's like the best response where he has like Deborah cornered on something. He's like, so you still believe like, the vaccines are really effective, right? Yeah. Well, none of us do, right? So you hate Trump, right? And you realize that you have more in common with Trump than like all of us do, right? You realize that, right?
Yeah.
Burn. So
that's like the hardest thing for them to accept. Like, how dare you?
Yeah, it's like you guys are way more aligned with Trump than we are at this point. So there you go. Take your medicine. But so anyway, just the idea of the false idol, man. And I see it there. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, but again, like, yes, they're all in their own awakening. So it's all good. Yeah. Now, that being said, holy crap, I got to meet like some of like my idols, right? Okay, there you go.
That's awesome. Hey, we're all guilty of it, right?
Yeah, people that I've had the opportunity to interview, but if nothing else, at least peripherally been able to follow and look up to, and whose research has really informed a lot of my work and stuff. So got to meet so for the left-right paradigm people, I got to meet General Michael Flynn, like whatever.
Wow, holy shit.
Yeah, it was cool though. He's a nice guy, super nice guy. I gave him my business card. I'm like, hey, anytime if you need a platform to come on a show, and he's like, okay, right on. Cool. But yeah, probably the ones I was really most excited about was Judy Mikovits, probably,
yes.
And, not only her, but I was talking to her daughter-in-law. They had a booth there, and I guess they have like a whole CBD business, which is super cool. I think I have their card right here.
That's awesome.
Actually, yeah. So hold on. The Mikovits family, it's Hemp, Mind, and Body. Nice. See if there's a website on here. I guess it's just Hemp, Mind, and Body. But I guess, yeah, she was telling me how like they're just under like constant attacks, and they have to like, structure their like corporation as like, a PMA within like she was describing like all this crazy stuff they have to do to like protect their organization, because Judy is just such a controversial figure. Like they've been coming after them like nonstop. So
she has to like pop up and then disappear for a while again, and then pop up and
rough. Yeah. And then Judy's
a sweet woman too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of respect for them. I got to meet Dr. Andrew Wakefield.
Yeah.
Vaxxed, all that stuff.
That's
and
so
then
cool,
I got to meet Dr. Stella Emanuel. She was super cool. And I got contacts for all these folks. So I just haven't quite reached out yet. And then Nurse Erin Olszewski, who was the whistleblower lady that was like doing all the hidden camera stuff in the beginning about all the people getting killed with ventilators in New York.
Holy shit. Wow.
Who else did I meet? Well, Dr. Paul Thomas, got to meet him again. Oh, and then Kevin Jenkins, my friend Kevin Jenkins, man, like just the CEO of Freedom Travel Alliance and Urban Global Health Alliance. Like he's just one of the most powerful speakers you'll ever see in your life, man. We did a couple shows with him on Truthzilla. He's just like so next level. So all these folks that I looked up to and finally got to meet. And then I met Mel. Mel was so busy, I didn't even really get to see her at all during the weekend. Like she. Like apparently like the first day, I guess like Eric Trump, like Trump's kid was supposed to be there the second day, but he like changed his plans to be there the first day. It was a 2-day event. Mm-hmm. And so he ended up being there like at the end of the first day. And so I was trying to like connect with Mel, and then she was like, oh, I got some stuff going on. And I was supposed to go back and like do interviews with like a bunch of folks, like in the back room, like in the green room, but I never quite got there. Mm-hmm. Mel was running, she was super busy. And then they said like security was just off the hook because Eric Trump was there, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, and you could tell there was like all these like mercenaries everywhere, like just like, like outfit, they're, what do you call them? It's like business suits, but you could tell they weren't messing around, you know what I mean? So,
right. Yeah. A little earpiece or something.
Oh yeah, totally. A lot of earpieces. And then a lot of people, like it was crazy. Like the security was off the hook, man. Like they had literally had like uniformed officers. I don't know if they were like police officers, but they all had like full AR-15s, everywhere.
Probably and private security, maybe.
Yeah, probably private security. And then you go outside, like it was at this, it was funny because it was supposed to be at this like church, this like big mega church in Salem, but they ended up switching it to the Volcanoes baseball stadium there in Salem. It was like a little event center right next door, actually. And so you go in and like, I was walking through the parking lot, and like on one of the roofs, there was like a guy like just like binoculars, just like scanning the horizon. So they had like snipers on the roof and everything, dude. It was intense. It was wild.
Damn.
They had like a little bit, like we were expecting, like, you know, the whole Antifa thing, but not really. There was just like a small group of folks who, you know, they just had some like pride flags and stuff and just harmless, you know what I mean? It was nothing. It was like, you know, it was like, yeah. So
It's like, yeah, we support you. Yeah, go ahead. Say whatever you want. Do it. If you're doing it peacefully, fine.
yeah, it's all good. All good.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, it was cool. I got, and then, okay. So of course I forgot about all this. So Richard Gage was there.
Yeah, dude. Holy
so
shit.
For your listeners that may not know, Richard Gage, he's the founder of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, who has had such a huge impact on like, you know, the whole 9/11 movement. You know, the whole Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, I feel, just gave a air of credibility to the movement and really, you know, approached it from like an engineering perspective, like saying, you guys, there's literally no way that this could have happened the way they're telling us. There's just 0% chance. And so offering these alternative perspectives, it was so it was cool. So first got to interview him, and then like, so I don't know, have you heard about how his whole departure from Architects and Engineers?
Yeah, and that was and honestly, like, that was a surprise to me. So when I heard it on your show, I had no idea. And I like that you had also highlighted that, you know, he walked into that situation from the very beginning as a very level-headed, even skeptical at times person, and had to convince himself of a lot of this. I mean, he was the most rigorous part of that, of course. Yeah, it was very interesting to find out he was no longer a part of it.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, because it was funny. So a mutual friend of ours put us in touch, and I sent him a Telegram message, right? And I was just gushing about like, oh, how much respect I have for Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth and this and that. And then it was still, you know, on Telegram, how it like gives you the 2 check marks if someone's read your message or whatever. And for a while there, I was sitting there unread. And then I learned that he was no longer with them. I was like, oh shit, I got to go back and delete that. I learned the circumstance. And so then I followed up a different way. But yeah, maybe for anybody that may not have heard. So Richard Gage, the founder, you know, the head of the whole organization, you know, he's kind of like the public face of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, was in an interview and was talking about how COVID was a deep state operation, you know, this and that, like what we talk about all the time and all our stuff. And they didn't like that. The board of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth did not like that. And they ended up voting him out of his own organization over that.
That is unreal. And again, that's what we were talking about with the, you know, how aware are you? What level are you at? You know?
Yeah. And it's crazy, man. And I don't think I got in. So that was fun. That was the one thing in the interview I did with him. I didn't quite ask him. I had it on my list of questions to ask, but I didn't quite ask him. I asked him, like, did you feel like your organization was infiltrated? And if this was like an actual deliberate thing, like a takedown job or something. And he told me, you know, no, he didn't think so. He felt like they felt like they were doing what was right. And even though he disagreed with the decision, it was he felt like they were acting in what they thought was the best interest of the organization, which, you know, to a certain extent, like their mission is focusing on, like, you know, the truth of World Trade Center Tower 7, and that the kind of the message may get diluted if they start going off and talking about, like, you know, vaccine genocide or anything like that, right? You know what I mean? So, and to a certain degree, I can see where they're coming from, but at the same time, also, it's like, if you're on the board of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, that means you got to be awake. You got to be one red-pilled motherfucker to be on that organization, and to not at least have empathy for somebody making the claim that it's the same people in charge of both operations. Like, if you can't at least, you know, if you're voting your CEO out over that, that's super shady. So
yeah, man. Yeah, I agree, because I mean, the way you said that just brought to mind, like, if you don't have the full scope, even if you don't buy every part of it, if you don't understand the occult angle to it, if you don't understand, like, there's so many different angles to something like an operation like that, that if you don't have that full scope, then you're going to probably miss a whole lot of context. And how far down that wrong context path are you going to go? And it's just going to take you further and further away from reality. Shit, a lot of us are probably have been guilty of that same behavior over time. But it's like being able to see it, right? Taking a step back. I mean, you and I have been in this a long time. We've been kind of like under this mindset for a while. So it's like, you can take a step back after a while, right? And kind of be like, wait a minute, okay, how many times have I been duped myself, right? And how many false idols, right, have come
Totally.
and gone, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, that was just a whole crazy little rabbit hole. And so, but the truth of the matter is, and I think that what he's really made clear is that he's way happier now, even though he's kind of like starting from scratch and rebuilding. I can totally relate to him on that, starting over. But now you have full license to do whatever you want. Like that's where he's at. Like now he can talk about all that stuff. And so anybody that doesn't know, he has his own podcast. It's called Richard Gage 911 Unleashed. So definitely download that. There's like in one of the very first few episodes, he does like a 3-part series, which is just fantastic, where he just breaks down each element of it. That's like Tower. The first one's like Tower 7. The second one is like the other 2 World Trade Center buildings. And the third one is all the nanothermite stuff.
Mhm.
Each one's like 2 hours long. He just does this awesome breakdown. Anybody that needs a good refresher. And then he's just bringing on guests. He's bringing on guests, and he's actually quite a good interviewer. And he's a really good interviewer. And then also the other cool part is that his wife is kind of his like co-host / producer. She kind of like runs behind the scenes. Her name's Gail. And I got to hang out with both of them. Actually went out to dinner with both of them after the whole event, which was so cool. Such an honor. Awesome. But she's so cool. They're so cool together. Like they're on air chemistry. Like they're just like the cutest couple in the world, man. It's like super cool. Like, so definitely go check out Richard's podcast, because it's pretty epic and he's doing some big things. And they got a new movie coming out too. It's called, so it's called Crime Scene to Courtroom. And they're basically going to, because back, that was another funny thing. Like in 2019, like some folks may remember, there was like all that rumblings about a grand jury investigation into 9/11, right?
Yeah.
Well, that kind of took a backseat, obviously, because of all this crap. So they're trying to reinvigorate, momentum behind that. And so they're coming out with this new documentary that's going to basically present, just do like kind of like what my perception of what he described it as is kind of like the whole thing that like Reiner Fulmick was doing recently about the whole like mock grand jury for the whole COVID thing and holding people accountable for that. Mm-hmm. Sounds like they may be doing something like that with 9/11 too, where it's going to be like a mock or just like something to do with like, kind of a, like, not a reenactment, but just acting out like what a grand jury investigation would look like if they were to actually have something like that in real life around the whole 9/11 thing. So anyway.
Maybe we're doing some of our own predictive programming.
Yeah, exactly.
If they did the what was it, like Event 201? Well, this will be like, Event Rebunked 9/11.
Exactly. There you go.
That,
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of exactly. It's like the Event 201, but
fight fire with fire, right?
Exactly.
Because I don't know what else to do. I mean, other than go within, right? Because that's the individual answer. But we are here together in this place. Like you said, community is like the basis for kind of your whole motivation. And I agree 100%, man. Like that's really what's driven me. Because the reason why I'm in this to begin with is because I didn't felt really heard in the other parts of my life. So might as well try to find something here. And sure enough. So it's like, I guess that's I don't know where I was going with that, but everything's great.
Yeah, that's really the whole thing. Like it can be so easy to get black-pilled or just feel defeated. Yeah. And let the fear take over. It's like, oh gosh, like we're gonna get nuked any second here, you know what I mean? And I don't necessarily believe in nukes per se, but like it's just like
right.
It's like, but whatever. But with all the war and all the fear and all this stuff, there's like World War III. Oh my God, like we're all gonna die at any second. It's just like, it's easy to get trapped in that. But once you start getting more in the solution, and for me, a big part of that has just been just podcasting. I don't know where I would be without this microphone and like a venue and a platform to talk. Like I don't know how I would have survived the last couple of years. You know what I mean? But to me, that's taking action. And, I know so many folks have like started podcasts or just like, started a business or started something or just anything, once you start taking action and being in the solution, I feel like that's so liberating, and like so much of the fear just kind of dissipates outside of that. And taking action could mean like just starting a garden or just like whatever, some small action on your behalf, like just reaching out and becoming part of a community, looking for a community in your area. Cause I guarantee there's all kinds of different ones, I mean, not only like freedom cells, but there's like the well, yeah, there's a whole bunch of different communities, you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
So, yeah.
And again, it's all those different scales too. I mean, anything that's kind of promoting self-creation and doing it ourselves is always a good thing. And of course, that's where a lot of the gatekeepers are too.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah,
but yeah,
definitely.
you mentioned that nuke thing. I actually saw something recently. It was some post about I think it was Jimmy Carter. I think it was Jimmy Carter, like being a young naval officer and being exposed to what today we would consider like 1,000 times the amount of radiation that would be considered safe
Mm,
for far too long. Him and his team
mm.
to do something. I can't remember exactly what the situation was, but yeah, it's just like that's pretty stark. And then it's also interesting when you hear that, you know, plants, animals, and humans were thriving in the Chernobyl zone
Yeah.
all the whole time. I've never looked into that. It's
Mm.
kind of been one of those topics where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure there's an entire black rabbit hole to go down in there, but I've never looked in there, but it seems like you have a little bit more.
Well, yeah, admittedly haven't really gone down fully down that rabbit hole, but yeah, just
Yeah.
like surface level stuff. Like once you start pointing out these inconsistencies, then it all kind of falls apart. You know what I mean? Like exactly Chernobyl, or you just talk about like, Japan,
The
Hiroshima, Nagasaki,
Fukushima.
like
Yeah.
yeah, or any of these places that were like supposedly nuked, but then it's like people started living there right away afterwards. So not to say that there aren't like massively devastating bombs and stuff like that, but the idea of it being like, radioactive for generations and that like some sort of nuclear war, we're on the cusp at any given second of some nuclear war that'll wipe out humanity for a million years. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't ring true. And then I was listening to some breakdown about, all the old footage of like, the bombs being tested, like how that was all just like staged. They're all just like props and stuff like that. And just like, and explaining how each one of those are just like, actually just like sound stages where they, oh, here's how they did that effect. You know what I mean? And then how could the camera survive and all this stuff? Like, it's kind of like some definite like moon landing style breakdowns where it's just like, it's like, okay, well, if this, then this, and there's no way that this could happen. And like, how could you keep the tires inflated on a lunar rover in a vacuum? Like the tires wouldn't stay inflated, stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like, how is there two shadows like on the surface of the moon? Like stuff like that. Like all these inconsistencies are like, wait a minute. Yeah, that's a good question. Wait a minute.
Right.
Now,
Yeah. So you've had like, you think you guys had like Dave Weiss on and everything, right? Back
I
in
have
the
not
day.
spoken with Dave Weiss. I've not had Dave
Okay.
Weiss. I've never really done any sort of flat earth deep
Yeah.
dive or
Yeah.
anything like that. I need to probably get a good schooling on that. Probably the closest, like I've listened to like, I think like all of Tripoli, whenever him and like Eddie Bravo do like a big episode, of course, like I would listen to those. And I've been listening to a lot of like Owen Benjamin lately, and they do a lot of
He's convincing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Owen's got some stuff there for sure.
Yeah.
I've gone down a little bit into that there, but I'm still so unsure of all that. I don't know. I wonder how much of it is actually just our perception and our perspective, and they know that too. They love messing with our perception about everything.
Totally.
But they is just more us, and it seems like they're extremely fucked up versions of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I try not, man, see, again, like I try not to like ascribe too much like omnipotent power to these powers that be, because really, yeah, they do. I mean, we've never seen before like so much like top down, like how these so-called whatever elites, I don't like calling them that, but whatever, these bastards at the top, like how decisions that they make like directly impact my life. Like it's never happened like this before. It's just like, usually it's just kind of more nebulous. Like it's like, oh, they're going to pass some gun control or just some whatever bill or healthcare bill or something.
Right.
Whatever, dude, I don't care, but now it's like when they do something that like impacts my life directly, and it's just like to the extent that I allow it, of course too. So, so much of it has been reframing the fact that like, I actually I do have complete autonomy and control. Like I was at a job before that required me to get the shot and I wouldn't take it. So they fired me. And it's like, my life has taken a whole new course ever since then, which has just been amazing. But at the same time, like there's nobody like with a gun to your head. There's nobody with like forcing me to do this. I can literally, like nobody's literally forcing me to wear a mask. I can choose to operate in such a way that I don't have to wear a mask, and maybe more restrictive and more difficult, but like there's, you know what I mean? Like, it's like taking my power back away from these bastards and not just saying, oh, it's hopeless, or oh, I just have to capitulate because this is what they're telling me I need to do. Like that's what they want. That's what they want, and so everything we do to move away from them as much as possible, building our alternative institutions, our freedom cells and growing a garden, all that stuff alleviates our need to eventually, capitulate at some point.
Hell yeah, man. And I've been saying entertainment as well. And I think a number of people in our community have kind of tried to do that and have been doing it great in some ways with humor and bringing comedy and I don't know. I'm curious what you think about that. Cause like, it's kind of a controversial thing where a lot of entertainment, it's like mind control already. It's us constantly chasing fictional stories or whatever. That would be the maybe black pill or at least red pill perspective on it. But I mean, do we take that with us? Should we bring all that with us? I think it's just maybe part of the human condition, or is it all just programming? What do you think?
I mean, okay, so it's definitely used for programming. Like it's definitely probably the best way to carry on whatever agendas they're trying to do. But I also feel that there's definite purity that can be found within it as well. Like I'm a musician, I mean, probably I see the keyboard behind you, right?
Yeah, man. I didn't really, dude, that's awesome.
That it's not all like, you always hear the thing like, oh, they changed it to like 440 hertz just to like, brainwash all of us, stuff like that. And it's like, I don't know. I didn't even know that. I've been playing my guitar at 440 hertz since I started playing when I was like 16, and I don't know. You know what I mean? So
right. I've been listening to death metal and being a really happy, outgoing, positive person.
So. Yeah. I know the music I create is not agenda driven. It's not trying to like slave humanity. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's some good there, and I know how it makes me feel. And I perform for people. And I know what that feels like to perform in front of a room full of people, and that energy. Oh my God. Yeah, maybe an argument can be made that I'm just like mind controlling all of them, but to me, that's more of like a primal thing. That's a very primal thing that happens like when you're on stage performing, playing music, and like the whole audience is like, you see people like on the balcony, like dancing to your music, dude. Like that is the best feeling in the world,
Hell yeah.
And there's nothing better than that. And like, maybe I am casting a spell on everybody, but this goes back to like, deep, like this is our ancestors, like around the fire type of thing. You know what I mean? And it's just like, that's what we're tapping into with that. And I think art in general, the closer you can get to that with your art, the more pure and the more impactful and resounding and powerful it is. And we can do that with movies. We can do that with music and drawings or cartoons or whatever, but again, it would be us taking our power back and building our own institutions. And I feel like there are people that are doing that.
Yeah, damn right. Because we can't keep trying to fit into that system to work this way. You know what I mean? Like I've spoken to Jim Gale. I think food forest abundance is like one of the best examples of how we kind of break the matrix, because so many of our new solutions in so many different categories of life, we try to put into this old system in every other way, and it's incongruent. It doesn't work. It gets spit back out. A lot of people fall back into their old habits because this new idea is engulfed in this ocean of the old way, the bad way, right? So it's like food forest abundance. Like, oh yeah, it's little to no maintenance basically, and you just start like, why have a lawn when you can have a food forest, right? It's this easy way to like keep your crazy job if you have to still support your family and do the 9 to 5 normie human thing. You can still start to evolve away from it in like a progressive way. You know what I mean? And that's like kind of the only thing we can really expect. It's going to be a progression, right?
Yeah, dude, totally. And I think that just the lawn thing, like that's a psyop right there. Like having a nice green lawn, like talk about a psyop, like convincing your entire culture that like the ideal is like a manicured green lawn. Like maybe golf is a psyop. Golf is literally invented to perpetuate the grass seed industrial complex and to make
that's awesome.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so like, seriously, like if you have a whole society where they take pride in how green and plush their grass is, that's insane. When you could be literally spending all that soil like growing food forest, dude. They don't want us growing food forest. They don't want you to be independent. They don't want you to have food independence. And so they have to perpetuate this whole boomer psyop of freaking having the nicest, greenest lawn, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's-
Oh, definitely.
That's some Edward Bernays shit right there, dude.
Yeah, man, that's some classic shit. And back to what you were saying about the mind control and like how you were possibly casting a spell, you can kind of look at it in a neutral way, right? Because like casting a spell, brainwash, or not brainwash, but mind control, it's kind of like you're talking about resonance, right? We're resonating with certain things, and it can be negative or it can be a good thing, and it really depends on, again, it comes back to our consent and our intention, man.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the consent piece. When I go to a live show, like I'm consenting to just like suspending everything else and just being absorbed into the music. And if it sucks, I'm going to be disappointed. And if it kicks ass, then I'm going to be so pumped. You know what I mean? Like this is a consensual thing. The mind control that they're implementing is not consensual. And right. They every trick in the book to touch your subconscious without even making you aware that you're being, controlled, and they're tapping into your primal features as well, like your the things on a primal level, but they're doing it in a manipulative way. It's like they're trying to find your insecurities and your vulnerabilities and your fears, and that's what they're tapping into. Where if here on the other side, we're trying to like tap into like love and fellowship and like just like positive energy. So
yeah, man, it's like how similar it is when like you hear a story about someone taking off to go, learn with the llamas and the, and like the monks and shit like that, where it's like trial and tribulation and stuff like that. And it's kind of like the same setup in a way. Oh, it's like we're I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought there. That's kind of something that happens, but
all right. Yeah, man. But it's, so, I mean, even just to go back to what we were saying, like just the idea, like we can't abandon the entertainment piece, we have to have that, but I feel like it falls into the category of like something we can make good again,
right. Yes.
We can totally do it. It's part of just like human function. We it's something that brings us together, having like, back in the day, it was like theater or just even books, you know what I mean? Or like drawings and anything, man, dancing. Like these are all things that bring us together that we can all come together around in our own humanity, which is a beautiful, powerful thing that we can't let them take that. It's our duty to take that back from them. We can't let them have all that stuff. Like, sure, they took over Hollywood and mainstream music and all that stuff, but it's just like, that's part of who we are as human beings, and so we can't let them happen.
Yeah, just the idea that is spreading, that Hollywood and the mainstream music industry are not the only avenues for music and entertainment, I guess is probably a great thing to have going on. And that's been going on for quite a while, I think. I remember like 10, 15 years ago seeing some independent kid on YouTube that was like younger than me, like making CGI action movies and stuff with his buddies. And I'm like, look at this. Holy shit. This is great. And like every step of the way, we're getting closer. It's weird that they allow it in some ways. It's very suspicious sometimes, right? Like no one needs a professional photographer ever again.
No.
I mean, you just need to, spend less on a camera yourself. That's it. It's just interesting how they do, in fact, allow all of it. I don't know. Maybe they want a worthy opponent. I've often thought that.
Yeah, it's like the Joker syndrome where he's like, right. Kill you.
Play with me. Come on.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, but that's true, man. And it also applies to technology. You know what I mean? The technology itself, I would say is a neutral thing. It's just how you use it, and unfortunately those who are the ones who have positioned themselves to control a lot of the technology are not using it in a good way. But there are things like right now we're using like this revolution. Like, look at us, like we're on the opposite sides of the country. We're able to interface like as if we're sitting together and having a powerful, meaningful conversation that's now going to be transmitted out to all these countless people out there. And who knows, and who knows how that ripple effect is going to continue on. So technology itself, I feel, is neutral. I mean, there could be an argument to be made that this is all like, technology that was given to us in exchange for like the suffering of children and stuff like that on an interdimensional level. Like, sure. So maybe, or like, circuit boards are just like little, like, little sigil magic. It's all like sigil magic. So who knows if we're channeling interdimensional beings at this point? Like, I don't know. But at the same time, I feel like it can be used for good, and if we had a world where, there's literally like what we're seeing right now with the whole like financial collapse and like the economic turmoil and the gas prices and all that stuff. Like it's so easy for us who have watched this whole thing progress. Like you can see the stages of it. And even though it's hard to pinpoint one particular thing, we can look at, these people that are in charge, and we can look at the agendas, and we can understand that this is completely contrived and fake and artificial. Like this is artificially constructed, and they know what they're doing. They are doing it intentionally and on purpose.
Yes.
And they're using the technology in order to do this. And so that's the frustrating part. But, if we were to like take all of that energy, like imagine there was like nice people that were in charge of everything, and they were using these same levers of control to benefit humanity as a whole. And if they were to use technology to benefit humanity as a whole, there's no way, like, yeah, I'm all about like not having gas, because I know you're holding on to that 0 point energy. I know you're holding on to all this technology that would completely liberate the human species and allow us to travel to different alleged places out there. And
Right. Yeah.
But, I know that you're holding on to that, and I know that you're artificially making this as difficult on us as possible. That's just, you guys write papers about it, and we know that that's what's going on. So if we were able to take the technology and use it to benefit humanity, we would live in absolute paradise beyond our wildest dreams. And there's no reason why we can't, but that's just we're not in that place yet. So, the same thing with entertainment. Like we have to take our technology back. And then of course, every time we get some like glimpse of hope that maybe, this new social media platform is going to save us, or this is going to save us, blows up in our face. But
back to what Float's great.
I just talked to Aaron and Kingsley last night. I'm going to release that episode like in a couple of days, but yeah, anyway.
Sweet. Well, yeah, I mean, every platform tries its best. I mean, a lot of it gets swallowed up by the machine, even if it's not directly. I think a lot of times we misplace, what should I say? Like controlled opposition is something I think about all the time on many levels, because I think a lot of what we see as controlled opposition, it's not that the person who's delivering the message is necessarily always aware of how deep the rabbit hole goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really do think that on some level, but I don't know. It's weird. Everything's just getting weirder and weirder, and things are compressing. It seems this year itself, like 2022, it feels like it's been a lot longer than just like a few months into this year. It's just
like a quarter of the way through already, man.
Yeah, and I'm just hearing crazy shit about like how Ethiopia is like 8 years behind us. Have you heard that yet?
Oh no, that's a good one,
dude. They're like on a 13-month calendar and shit. Wow. And yeah, it's like I don't know, man.
That's a trip.
Yeah, reality's just getting weirder, man. I don't know.
It is. It really, truly is. It really, truly is. It's I think it's fascinating and fantastic, and it's like, it's almost like you can kind of reach in and kind of play with it a little bit. Like you can almost like use it to your advantage. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So here's an interesting story. This is, and I don't know. So I've been working at this countertop fabrication shop for like ever since I was a drug and alcohol counselor before, and they fired me over the vax stuff, all that crap. So back to working at this job I used to have at a countertop fabrication shop. And because of my move, I put in my 2 weeks, and my last day was last week. And but also in the meantime, I've been interviewing, or I started the process. I applied for this remote work from home job. And I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to get into like the specifics, but it's like literally like somebody in the community, like awesome type of stuff. You know what I mean? And it's just like a great opportunity. And so I've been interviewing there let's say I did my third interview today. So I'm really, really hopeful about it. You know what I mean? But there was like a 2 week period where after my first interview that I didn't hear back from anything. And I was just like, and I emailed the person that I did the interview with. They're like, yeah, we'll get back to you. We're super busy right now. And I was just like, I hadn't heard back from her. And I was like, damn it. I'm like, getting really frustrated. I'm like, you know what? I have an idea. What I'm going to do is, I know how this universe thing works sometimes. I know how silly this thing works. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go online and I'm going to start looking for other jobs. And I bet you that will trigger something to have them reach out to me. Right. And so I went on like Indeed, and I started looking at jobs. I started like clicking on like the old apply now button. And I started intentionally looking for other jobs. And like literally right then I got an email from them about setting up another interview. And I'm like, haha, got you. I knew it.
Dude, that's fucking nuts. You're the only other person I've ever heard of this community talk about it like that, because it's like, I would typically do that kind of behavior to throw it off.
Yes.
And my wife or my, whoever would say like, no, that's not how this works. You have to act like it is going to happen.
Yeah.
And you don't want to look for other jobs because that's validating that this isn't going to happen. I'm like, yeah, but I know this trickster.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like as soon as I go down this path, then, that'll come. I just had this weird feeling that,
all right, I'll play hard to get. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm wondering, like, had I not gone to Indeed and applied for other jobs, if they would have emailed, I don't know, but I was just like, I knew ahead of time that as soon as I started doing that, it would trigger that. And sure enough, it worked. I was like, oh, nice.
Wink.
Yeah, dude. Like, okay. That was a good one. That was a good one.
Man.
Yeah, that was a real good one. So
That's
I don't
great.
know.
Well, hey, I think there's a lot more to learn, and I think we're just going to keep doing that and broadening this community as we've talked about this whole time. I always say, like, the listenership is becoming the ones behind the microphones more and more every day, it seems. And I love it. I love seeing new podcasts pop up in our community. It's great. Who knows what that is going to be like when you fast forward? Like, are we all just going to be in a gigantic stadium talking to each other? I don't know.
Great.
But it's going to be great.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great thing. There's like almost no barrier to entry for it. So, I'd always been telling people, please, if it's in your heart to do it, just do it, man. And, I've talked to a lot of people, they reach out asking questions like, hey, I want to start a podcast. How do I start, man? Please, just the number one thing is just start doing it. Don't worry about what microphone you're going to get or like whatever, any of that crap, dude. Like, just start recording. Like, that's it. Number one.
Hell yeah. And then another good piece of advice that I've given out is that just make a presence for yourself. Like, even if you don't have the equipment that you need yet, or you don't have something in order yet, become that presence that you're going to, eventually bring forth with the podcast. Go on social media. I was like yapping and yelling about shit for a long time before I was able to, get my shit together and put out my first episode, and I had probably a few more listeners because of that, just from yelling and getting attention, so that helps too. But it's really great to see you doing this new show. I'm glad you're still chugging along, because that's kind of when it's in you, man. It's just kind of what we got to do, right?
Yep. 100%.
So please tell the people where they can find you, sir.
Okay, yeah. So the website is rebunked.news. You're going to find links to all the video platforms at the top, and then the audio platforms in the middle. We're pretty much on any podcast player. So if you want to listen on the go, iTunes, Spotify, all that crap. And then and then all the social media is on there too. So if you just go to rebunked.news, you'll find everything on there. And then we got a subscribe star. And then Telegram's probably my favorite place to send people to stay plugged in, because everywhere else they just shadow ban me to hell. So
yeah, I was hearing you talk about how like you put episodes out on Telegram, and I gotta do that or something.
I did a what is it, like
or maybe a live or something,
live stream feature on there.
Okay,
I tested out, and then but what happens is that like after you're done with the live stream, it disappears. It's not like it just like saves it, which is weird. So yeah, that was discouraging. I had like a good little rant, and then it was just gone. I'm like, wait a minute, I kind of wanted that on there. Damn.
Yeah, I want to cut that shit up, make it look cool. Come on. But also, I would like to say that your website looks great. It's
thanks, man.
Very nice looking, man, and it's easy to navigate. So I highly suggest people go check it out, and check out Scott's new show, Rebunked.
Yeah.
And thanks, man. I really appreciate you being here. This was awesome.
Yeah, great to finally connect, dude. So yeah, man.
Yeah,
we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, definitely, man. All right, everybody, take it easy.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Deep Share Podcast. If you want to hear more, then hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all the social places. And remember, think for yourself, but don't always believe what you think. Till next time.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, vegetarian. Enough, I get the point.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone.
What do we know? What do we know? If I know what we know, then I can tell you what we know, and if someone else knows, okay? I mean...